Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to the stream. My name is The Phoenix, and you are joining me from wherever you are in the world right now. The Americas, it's a bright and, well, late. I shouldn't say it's an early morning. It is a it is a morning in the Americas. But for those of you joining me from other parts of the world, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Uh, Today we are talking Lord of the Rings 5e and D&D 5e. And I wanted to start off this morning with uh, a segment that we've been trying to get into. You know, it's slowly coming together, and I haven't received too much feedback from you guys as viewers on whether you like this part of the program. So if you definitely do like it, be sure to let me know in the comments in the chat box. I am looking forward to some feedback on this. So today is November 28th, 2024. Today would be considered the 9th of 4 Yule in the Shire Reckoning calendar. And at this point in time in Arda, in the year 3018 of the Third Age, Frodo and Sam are resting in Rivendell. They're resting for a good 2 months here in Rivendell. Starts around, just after Frodo recovers from his wound, right around, October the 24th, and after the Council of Elrond. And then they spend the rest of the next 2 months resting and recovering and preparing themselves, enjoying the fine dining and the music, quiet places of contemplation and reflection. So let's try and theorize some of the other things that Frodo and Sam might have been doing. Do we think that they were getting their steps in? Do we think that they're going on long walks, getting their cardio in for the journey to Mordor? Who knows? So this day on Earth, a few different things happened. Let's go maybe most recent history to least recent. So in 2003, the video game The Hobbit was released in Europe. So this game is called The Hobbit, The Prelude to the Lord of the Rings. And it was published by Vivendi and Sierra Entertainment. And it's set around the events of The Hobbit. This game, it kind of reminds me a little bit of I'm trying to think of the graphic design, what the graphic design reminds me of, but it's not fanciful. It's very cartoony. This was released on Game Boy Advance, GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and of course PC. There were six actors whose roles were specified, and everyone else were identified as voice talent on this game. So there's quite a lot of people who are just voice talent. There's got to be like 20 names here. But the people who were actually specified were the voices of Bilbo, the narrator, Gandalf, Thorin, Smaug, and Gollum. So on this day back then, this game was released. And it looks like they've got a bunch of different levels to it. Um, the naming convention of these levels is very on par with Lord of the Rings. We've got Dreamworld, An Unexpected Party, Roastmun, Trollhole, Overhill and Underhill, Riddles in the Dark, Flies and Spiders, Barrels Out of Bond, A Warm Welcome, Inside Information, The Gathering of the Clouds, and The Clouds Burst. So yeah, so this day in 2003, that's 21 years ago, this game was released. We also have a couple, or rather one unfortunate anniversary of the death of a Lord of the Rings universe actor. Andre Morel died on this day in 1978, and he portrayed Elrond in the 1978 film of Lord of the Rings. Boop, boop, boop. The 8th episode of the Princess serialization of The Hobbit was published on this day in 1964. Tolkien wrote a couple letters on this day, so letter 242 was written on this day in 1962. And this letter, following the publication of The Adventures of Tom Bombadil 6 days earlier, 2 reviews had been published, one by the Times Literary Supplement and one by The Listener. Both were positive, but Tolkien thought both reviewers started out not wanting to be amused. He remained puzzled as to why, if a professor shows any knowledge of his professional techniques, it must be waggery. But if a writer shows, say, knowledge of law or law courts, is held interesting and creditable. That's funny. And Tolkien also wrote a letter on this day in 1963 to George Sayer. And who's George Sayer? That's a good question. George Sayer was head of the English department at Malvern College in Worcester from 1949 until 1974. He was a pupil and later close personal friend of C.S. Lewis during his undergraduate years. Sayer wrote the memoir and biography Jack, C.S. Lewis and His Times. In August 1947, Sayer also befriended J.R.R. Tolkien. In late August 1952, Tolkien visited Sayer and his wife and lent them the written manuscript of The Lord of the Rings. During this visit, Sayer was to capture Tolkien singing and reading excerpts from The Hobbit and the manuscripts of The Lord of the Rings. Oh, there's a 1952 tape recording. That's kind of cool. That's neat. I didn't know that existed. While preparing publication of The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien was unable to write a brief sketch description of his work as a publicity blurb. Sawyer helped him and sent a text to Allen and Unwin, who in turn drafted a shorter one, which was first printed in the 1953 catalog. Cool. All right, so on this day in 1963, Tolkien wrote a letter to his buddy. There's a couple excerpts from the letter here. Let's see. A Catholic could not possibly say anything sincere about Jack's books without giving widespread offense. And then, so the Jack referred to here is C.S. Lewis. But then Jack never sent me anything, not even the screw tape letters which he dedicated to me without permission. I was wryly amused to learn from the Daily Telegraph that Lewis was never himself very fond of this work. I after often wondered why the dedication was made. Now I know, or should. All right. So yeah, so Tolkien wrote some letters, and then it looks like in 1930, Father Christmas wrote a letter to J.R.R. Tolkien's children, which is kind of cool. Let's see what this is. Letters from Father Christmas. Uh, Letters from Father Christmas, also called the Father Christmas Letters in earlier editions, is a collection of letters written and illustrated by J.R.R. Tolkien between 1920 and 1943 for his children from Father Christmas. That's so sweet. That's so cute. So he did that for like 23 years. It was posthumously released in 1976, the third anniversary of Tolkien's death, and was edited by Bailey Tolkien, the wife of Christopher Tolkien. Okay, so Christopher Tolkien being, J.R.R. Tolkien's son, and Bailey being Christopher's wife. Okay. Here it transcribes these letters and reproduces them along with their envelopes in facsimile. Many of these envelopes have Tolkien's hand-drawn stamps on them, and many letters are accompanied with full-page artwork. The work is warmly received by critics and has been suggested that some elements were carried over to the Legendarium. That's so cool. So an overview. The stories are told in the form of letters primarily written by Father Christmas, with letters or parts of letters written by the North Polar Bear and his elven secretary Ilbereth. The letters document the adventures and misadventures of Father Christmas and his helpers, including the accident-prone North Polar Bear and his nephews Peksu and Valkotuka. Many letters include illustrations drawn by Father Christmas. The letters themselves were written over 20 years to entertain Tolkien's children each Christmas. The first letter was written in 1920 when Tolkien's oldest son, John, was 3 years old, after he'd asked about Father Christmas and where he lived. Each letter included North Pole stamps and postage marks designed by Tolkien. That's cute. That's very, very cute. As a mother, as a new mother, that's really, really sweet. Maybe I need to get into doing that kind of stuff. That's really cool. All right, so on this day, Father Christmas wrote a letter to Tolkien's children. That's cute. In 1930. Let's see. Robert Gilson is the first of the TCBS to join the war effort. He enlists with the Cambridgeshire Battalion as a second lieutenant. Robert Gilson, who is that? So he's a childhood friend of Tolkien. Gilson, Tolkien, and Geoffrey Smith attended King Edward's School in Birmingham together and served in the First World War. He was killed by a shell on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. Oh. That's sad. Okay, so he was enlisted on this day in 1914. A friend of Tolkien. All right, so that is our Tolkien history moment. There is a, let's go into our quotes here. So I read an excerpt already from The Two Towers yesterday. So let's go to The Return of the King. So this is an excerpt from The Return of the King from the second chapter of the book called The Passing of the Great Company. What do you fear, lady? He asked. A cage, she said, to stay behind bars until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall or desire. That's an excerpt from a conversation between Faramir and Éowyn. There's some good quotes. It's always hard for me to decide what quote to read to you guys. All right. Okay, so that is our quote for this morning. I did want to show you guys a cool, or rather, read you guys a cool story that I read online uh, yesterday. I think it was. I thought it was really really neat because I never knew about this. So I'll get into this. So this is an account from Diana Wynne Jones. And Diana Wynne Jones was a novelist and poet. Let's just see. Oh, she's the author of Howl's Moving Castle, which is awesome because I love Howl's Moving Castle. So she's a English novelist, poet, academic, literary critic, and short story writer. And she was born August 1934 and died March 2011. So she did Howl's Moving Castle. Let's see if there's any other things that stick out here to me. She's got a lot of books. Earwig and the Witch. That sounds familiar. Okay. So yeah, so she's a novelist and a poet. Anyways, there's this story that I read online the other day, which I want to share with you guys. So let's get into it here. I actually saved it on my phone, so sorry for not looking at the camera here. When I was a student at Oxford, both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were lecturing there. Lewis magnificently, and Tolkien badly and inaudibly, and the climate of opinion was such that people explained Lewis's children's books by saying, "It's his Christianity, you know," as if the books were the symptom of some disease, while of Tolkien they said he was wasting his time on hobbits when he should have been writing learned articles. I imagine I caused Tolkien much grief by turning up to hear him lecture week after week while he was trying to wrap up his lectures after a fortnight and get on with The Lord of the Rings. You could do that in those days if you lacked an audience and still get paid. I sat there obdurantly, despite all his mumbling and talking with his face pressed up to the blackboard, forcing him to go on expounding every week how you could start with a simple quest narrative and, by gradually twitching elements as it went along, arrive at the complex and entirely different story of Chaucer's Pardoner's Tale, a story that still contains the excitement of the quest narrative that seeded it. What little I heard of all this was wholly fascinating. So that's an account from Diana Jones. I just thought that was hilarious. Just this woman, forcing him to talk about stuff when he really just wanted to be lazy and write The Hobbit and get paid still. So yeah, so that's a little excerpt here. So let's get into some other stuff here. First things first, I have a new little thingy at the bottom of my screen here, a little ticker type thing, and that's mainly so that I don't have to constantly reiterate to you guys, hey, we've got a one shot coming. Hey, we've got an opportunity for you guys to choose a name for the dragon. Hey, this is some stuff coming down the pipeline. So I'm giving it a chance. I figured I'd put in like hashtags, even though I'm not a big like hashtag person. I realize the importance of it in a social media run world. So I'm trying like some little hashtags at the end of each alert to kind of give you guys a sense of the gist of it. So I have my D&D 5e one-shot that I will be running this Saturday morning. So that's in, 48 hours, a little less than 48 hours actually, 47-ish hours. So if you guys are interested, please drop by. I would love to have you guys be part of our first launch. Our That one shot is there is quite a bit of combat in it, but I would say it's a very cheesy, corny, lighthearted adventure. The characters are a bit out there, a little bit you know a little bit exaggerated, comparatively speaking, to say some other characters that you'll see in later one shots. But I'm really excited to be able to show you guys this. We have a cast of 4 different buddies of mine, who are all learned in D&D in their own ways. So I'm really excited to give you guys an opportunity to meet them, to watch us play, and just have a good time watching a live play of D&D. Again, our dragon needs names, so if you have a name for him, he's down here and he's adorable. So please send in your naming suggestions for our dragon. Next week, I'm hoping to begin to do like I think I'll do like a showdown between each of the names. So, we'll put 2 names up on the screen, and then whatever name makes it down with the most votes, that stream ends up being the one to go on to the next round, and we'll just filter it down until we're down to our final 2 names. So yeah, we have, let's see, we have we also eventually are going to have our LOTR5e one-shot. That is still work in progress. Unfortunately, with the holidays coming up, it was just really bad timing to try and get that one-shot up and running before Christmas. So I'm anticipating that that's going to probably be coming to you guys right around the new year, or after the new year. Which is unfortunate. I did expect that we were going to get it up in November, but things have occurred, and not everyone has a flexible schedule like mine, where I'm on maternity leave and have the time to dedicate to this kind of stuff. So, but that is all of our updates as far as the stream is concerned. I wanted to take the opportunity to give a few shout outs to some fellow streamers. So let's see if I can shout out. No, how do I do this? Shout out? I think it's like this. Shout. I need to find out how to do it again. It's been a minute. How to shout out on Twitch. Type shout out. Okay. One word. Shout out. Oh, can I not shout out someone in... Wait, let me try doing this directly from Twitch itself. Alright, so Twitch. And we'll go to my creator dashboard, stream manager, and then we'll try to shout out to people, because I want to properly shout out. Alright, so first round of shout outs. Oh, can I not shout out people if they're not part of my stream right now? No, that's not what I wanted. Okay, well, we'll try typing in some stuff. Yeah, it's not going to let me. To initiate a shout out. Okay, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna try this, and this might not work, but let's hit enter and we'll see if it works, and then if it does, perfect. We know how to do it. Yay! Okay, it does still allow me to do it. My first shout out of the stream is to the Death Save Society. So this is a brand new account, a brand new streamer. His name is Rain. He does some really good stuff. He streams D&D 5e. So he's both he does a bit of stuff like me. So he does, you know, a chat forum where they discuss okay, here is let's discuss some stuff that's occurred in D&D this week, or let's discuss some news that's pertinent to the D&D community this week. But he also does streaming of campaigns and one-shots that he runs as a dungeon master. And I want to preface, I do not shout out just anyone for the sake of shouting people out. That is not what I'm about here. I wanted to highlight them because there's a lack of really feel-good people in the community sometimes that genuinely care about their viewers and genuinely care about the content that they're putting out. That isn't to say that everyone who streams, you know, doesn't care about their viewers, but there's a difference between feigned empathy and genuine empathy. And when I meet a genuinely empathetic streamer, it feels special. And I want you guys, as some of my viewers, to feel as special as I felt talking with some of these streamers. So my first shout out is to the Death Save Society. Like I said, they're an up-and-coming streamer. They're just getting into things, just starting to figure out their groove. Yesterday we talked about quite a few different things. We talked about you know, tips and tricks on making combat more challenging as a DM, ways to we talked through a couple, you know, D&D horror story type situations and toxic D&D experiences. We talked about a few different ways to improve the narrative of your story. And then at the end, he streamed a little bit of Baldur's Gate 3 for us. And all this previously he went over the D&D updates. So stuff like some new updates coming down the pipeline for Baldur's Gate 3, or the new edition of Lord of the Rings 5e on D&D Beyond, that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to join another community, want to support another small streamer, please give a follow to the Death Save Society, because we want to increase the community for good quality streamers. So please give them a shout. So that was our first shout out of the day. Next up, and let's see if I can do this right. I don't want to mess this up. I need to make sure I'm typing in the right the right name. All right, okay. So my next shout out is to Malcolm Hinson 4. So this is another D&D streamer. And Malcolm tends to go through some D&D related content, so reviewing homebrew, reviewing some campaign settings, going through some pre-written adventures and pre-established traps and encounters and monsters. Usually in the streams I've joined of Malcolm's, he's usually doing some session preparation, that kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested in chatting with him, he's another really good streamer. He's actually got a community going of people who support one another. So if you guys would like to follow a really supportive community of people who just really like D&D and want to have good vibes and relaxing conversations, Malcolm is a great source of that. And sometimes he has a puppy on his stream, and his puppy looks like the main character from Lady and the Tramp. So if you guys want that, please give a follow to Malcolm. Another really good streamer, and he's got a cool little Discord server going. So that is always available for you guys if you guys are into joining a Discord community. All right. So. Ba, 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 ba. All right, I'm just going to pop up here. All right, I don't think I can shout out people that don't follow me. I can try. At shout out. Oh, whoops. Not at shout out. Shout out. I don't think this will work. We can try. Oh, it does work. Interesting. Okay, that's actually a first for me. So I didn't actually think that would work because in previous attempts, when I tried to shout out someone that didn't follow me, it gave me an error message. So maybe I just need to do it directly from my stream manager next time. All right, so my third D&D shout out is to the Kindly Cleric. So the Kindly Cleric does a couple different types of things. So they do what they consider Middle Earth Mondays. So it is kind of like me. It's Lord of the Rings focused content. And that is going to be every Monday. I believe they stream at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't quote me on that, though. They have their full schedule posted on their Twitch stream. They also do Tabletop Tuesdays. So again, that's Tuesday mornings. And they just talk everything D&D. And usually the Kindly Cleric gets like a panel of people. And they talk through various D&D topics. They talk through... death and dying in D&D. They talk through toxic players and toxic DMs. Really just covering a variety of topics. So they've got a really good community going there as well. They're actually how I found out about the Death Save Society. So if you would like to follow the Kindly Cleric, they do that Middle Earth Monday and Tabletop Tuesdays. They also do stream some other great content. So live play content. So they, I believe, stream usually Dungeons and Dragons 5e. I've heard some chatter about them potentially streaming some other subsystems of 5e. The actual re the actual specifics about that kind of stuff is not something that I'm familiar with. So if you guys would like to take part in that, please follow the Kindly Cleric. So yeah, so that is my 3 shout outs of the day. Please give these people your love. They really deserve it. They are all really, really good D&D streamers, really chill communities, really awesome people in general. So I'm just out here trying to promote good vibe D&D streamers. All right. So that is our streaming stuff today. Let's go to some Lord of the Rings 5e. So let's go through the core rulebook. So that is Lord of the Rings role-playing for 5e. This is the actual, the thing that's on the side of my stream here. This is the core supplement. Lord of the Rings role-playing, the core rulebook. This is the meat that you need to make your adventures occur in Lord of the Rings 5e. So some really cool stuff about this book. So let's just get into some of the rules in this, because I kind of went through a little bit of what D&D Beyond had announced yesterday, and some of it I felt was a good representation of how it's presented in the book. Some of it I felt maybe simplified things or completely deviated from how I would have presented something from this book. It's all a matter of perspective, right? So one of the things about Lord of the Rings 5e is they've essentially got two, what I consider they essentially have two phases. They've got your adventuring phase, which makes up 75% of what you're actually going to be doing in any campaign. And then they've got the fellowship phase, which is basically your downtime. And a lore master is going to use a combination of fellowship phases and adventuring phases to make your story ebb and flow with different story arcs. So usually with a story arc, you have your adventuring phase, which starts and it reaches a pinnacle. And then as it descends, as things are resolved in that story arc, you're going to wrap it up in a neat little bow with your fellowship phase. So your fellowship phase is kind of your wind down time where everything comes together and you tie off the loose ends and get ready to start that second adventuring phase. And usually the adventuring phase is mainly lore master led story, and the fellowship phase is player hero led story. So the adventuring phase, you as the lore master are going to set up, what sort of action is going to occur over the course of this. Obviously, without railroading your players, having them contribute to what occurs in this story, but you are being the director for this. You are setting the stage and putting the pieces in place for those player heroes to react to interact with, to make decisions about, that kind of thing. The fellowship phase is really up to your players. So your players are going to figure out what is important for them when they're in their downtime, what kind of goals they have. Because fellowship phases, they can be a few days, they can be a few weeks, they can even be a few months in length. And so this is really where the personal lives of those players comes into play and any personal motivations they have. So if they want to raise an heir, that is something that they're going to be doing during their downtime, during their undertakings, is what they're called in Lord of the Rings 5e. If they want to pursue information, or maybe they're feeling contemplative and want to write a story or write a ballad, all of that kind of stuff is done during their undertakings, during their fellowship phases. They can even meet with their patron to gain some more information, gain further direction, maybe realign themselves with the goals of their patron, because their patron's essentially their quest giver. Or they could seek out new patrons, seek out new goals or new plot hooks, that kind of stuff. So all of this is player-led in your fellowship phase. So I essentially break down each phase into different sequences. Really the biggest one is your adventuring phase, because it's got 3 sequences. You've got combat, council, and journey. The combat in Lord of the Rings 5e is actually, it is, the exact same as D&D 5e, except you can make a choice to have it align more with with another system. And let me just grab that up here. I want to show you guys this because this is a cool little system in the game. Not campaign info. Where do I have it saved? Give me one moment here while I try and figure out where I have everything I need saved. It's 9 maps. Let's actually go in here, and we're going to go the One Ring combat. Combat circle. Is it this? Nope, that is not it. Combat circle. Aha. Open in browser. All right. This is the combat circle. So let me play with the share screen. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but we will make it like this. All right. Okay. In Lord of the Rings 5e, you can just run it exactly like you run D&D 5e. There is no qualms against running it like you do in D&D 5e. And that's probably simpler if you have a game that maybe combat isn't a big thing in your game, or maybe you particularly like the 5e system for combat. However, if you want to, you can do Lord of the Rings in Lord of the Rings 5e, the One Ring System's combat system, which makes use of this little circle. It's called a combat circle, and essentially what it is you don't have to measure anything. There's no need for battle maps. You don't need to roll initiative. Everything is decided by your players deciding essentially what position they are taking in the battle. So there's a few different positions. There's forward, open, defensive, and rearward. What will happen is at the very beginning of combat, before anything happens, your players will decide what position they're taking. Rearward is going to be the only place from which you can make ranged attacks on people. But the important thing is you can't be greatly outnumbered. So if the number of enemies is more than twice the number of player heroes that you have, you can't take a rearward position. You're just too overwhelmed by the amount of enemies available. And for every hero that's in the rearward, you require 2 heroes in close combat. So 2 other heroes in one of these other 3 positions, either forward, open, or defensive. So in a party of like 4 people, you can only have 1 person in the rearward. But if you had, say, a party of 6 people, you could have 2 people in the rearward, because then you have 4 people in the close combat range. Player heroes are always going to go first using the One Rings battle system. The players go first, and then after the players are all done, then the enemies go. So you choose your position. So rearward being that place where you can make your ranged attacks. If you have a rearward person, you can also make what's called an opening volley, which allows you to make a ranged attack at the beginning of combat before anything else happens. So you opening volley from the rearward, and then throughout throughout the rest of the game, you can make ranged attacks from this position. You can also run away, escape from combat if you're in the rearward. This is one of only 2 positions that you can escape the battlefield from. But this one, you don't have to make a check in order to escape. You can just escape. So you've got your rearward, then you've got your forward. Forward position goes first in battle, and it essentially means that you're getting up and close and personal. You basically throw caution to the wind when you're attacking people. So all of your attacks against other enemies are made with advantage, but attacks against you are also made at advantage. So you gain advantage, but they also gain advantage, which is kind of akin to reckless, basically. I should say, from each of these positions, you can make a special you have special abilities available to you based off of the position that you choose. So intimidate foe is something that you can do to when you're in the forward position. Some of the language on this particular combat circle is geared towards the One Ring system. I do have like a paper copy of the D&D version of this, but I don't have a digital copy of it. So in this position, you can intimidate your foe if you wish to. Then you've got your open position, which is your next up close combat position. So from this position, you are, you're aware of what's happening on the battlefield. You're jumping in, jumping out, being aware of opportunities and openings for you as a melee attacker. And what you can do is you can rally your comrades from the open position, which, if I remember correctly, it gives your companions advantage on their next attack roll. And then finally, you have your defensive position. So defensive means you're a little bit more, you're still in close combat range, but you are protecting yourself and more aware of how your players are doing in theirs. So in the defensive position, attacks against you have disadvantage, but attacks you make also have disadvantage. And you can take the protect companion action in this position, which allows you to impose disadvantage on any attacks made against that player. So it's more of a defensive, the defensive position's defensive. From the defensive position, you can also choose to leave the battlefield, but you have to make a roll in order to successfully leave, because you still are in that close combat range. So if you aren't successful with that roll, you are unable to successfully leave, and then you have another round of combat. So if you were in a battle with all of your party, and you guys decide, hey, we need to get out of here, everyone who's in that close combat range would move to the defensive stance, and your rearward would run away, because your rearward just has the ability to go away. Defensive people would then try and make a roll to follow the rearward away. But yeah. Soaring. Welcome to the stream, Soaring. I have a deadly weapon in Player's Handbook. What kind of deadly weapon? The player. Oh, the player's handbook. Thing's a brick. Yes, it is. I have, I don't even know, I've got probably 15 or so D&D books, and I actually had to dedicate an entire shelf to all of my D&D books because it is very heavy. Drop that thing on your foot and bye bye toe. That's how you upgrade or how you differentiate between the commoner stat block and the adventurer stat blocks. If you are unable to lift the player's handbook, you lack the combat prowess to adventure. Yeah, so after all of the people in the on the player side of things go, then your enemies are going to go, and your enemies are going to be either engaged with you guys, or they're going to be in their own ranged position. So just like the rear word for the players, they can also make volleys before the rest of their monsters go. And usually, so in this it says heroes can be engaged by 3 human-sized or 2 large creatures. Usually what you do with this is you just have one enemy per player in the close combat range, and then if you have more enemies than you do players in the close combat range, you end up having someone in a position where they can attack anyone as an enemy. Oh, Mjolnir plus book, Mule book. Whosoever can lift the mule book will be deemed worthy. That's funny. All right, so that is the combat system. So now we're going to go into talking about the fellowship phase. Or sorry, not the fellowship phase, but the council phase. So in the adventuring phase of Lord of the Rings 5e, you actually have a entire system dedicated to how big moments and big interactions between the players and NPCs end up having to go. So, for example, if you are trying to make a case for something, and it has its benefits and its drawbacks, so there's usually some sort of risk involved, either for the NPCs or for the world as a whole. There are some high stakes situations in which you might choose to engage in a council. So the interesting thing about council in Lord of the Rings 5e is it's actually a developed system. It's actually a developed system compared to D&D 5e. Because in D&D 5e, if you have a high stakes situation, you're just, usually rolling dice, you're rolling persuasion, or you're role-playing willy-nilly back and forth with your DM. You don't necessarily have a dedicated phase to this, and that's what the council is. The council is a sequence that is formalized in how it's approached. So, when the player heroes need to gather with one or more NPCs in a formal way, when stakes are high and the company stands to win or lose something, a council is formed. So the council sequence begins by having a spokesperson from among the player heroes introduce the company. So this can be achieved with rolling intimidation, persuasion, or deception, your usual charisma skills. The outcome of this roll will either hinder or aid the company during the council, such as allowing an ability check to be re-rolled or imposing disadvantage on ability checks. So your spokesperson, you're going to want to be your charisma-based player hero. You're not going to want your players with low charisma to speak on behalf of your company, because it can greatly color the way that the NPCs approach the rest of your council session. So there's two things that you have to take into consideration when it comes to the council. How reasonable the company's request is, and the attitude of the NPCs towards the company. So these will determine how difficult it is to succeed during the council. A variety of skills can be used to achieve ends in the council. However, effective and clever roleplay can be impactful to success with the council. So just like anything, you as a lore master are going to reward particularly good points or good roleplay. And when players are trying to make a hard case for something, or something that just doesn't make sense, isn't very convincing, that's going to make it even more difficult. So, really important thing that I think is really cool about the council system is that council can go extremely wrong. It isn't just, okay, you disagree with us, we'll let bygones be bygones. These are usually high stakes situations, and people are going to be very motivated to defend whatever their stance is on these. So the choices the party makes and the success of the company make a difference. You could make enemies of the NPCs that you're talking to, be attacked, or even arrested. So it's really important as a lore master to highlight these are high stakes. This is not an opportunity to goof off and make jokes, because you are going to result in the rest of the party seeing the consequences of that. So you really want your players to understand the gravity of the situation. So that covers two of our sequences. Now we have the journey sequence. So the journey sequence is the traveling system for Lord of the Rings role-playing. So anytime the company is trying to reach a specific destination over a distance, a journey is undertaken. Each player hero covers one or more roles during the journey, and your calling may have specifics regarding your journey role. So some of the callings are able to actually have 2 roles without having any sort of negative effects from holding 2 roles. So there's 4 roles in the main rule, in the main core rulebook. There is another role that is made available in the Moria supplement, but that is specific to the Moria stuff, and that's called your Delver. You do not need a Delver for your regular Lord of the Rings 5e sessions. It doesn't make sense because it's all about dwarven architecture, knowing the mines, knowing stuff about the ore and the mountain and that kind of stuff. So it's your Delver is not going to be a role that you need in your regular 5e sessions. But the 4 roles in regular Lord of the Rings 5e. So there's your guide, who is in charge of all decisions concerning your route, rest, and supplies. And so for this, they actually end up using your travel skill. And the travel skill is a new skill made available in Lord of the Rings 5e, and this one uses wisdom. So your guide does all the stuff about planning your route, figuring out when you're going to rest, that kind of stuff. Then you have your hunter, who's in charge of finding food in the wild. And this is another new skill. So this is your hunting skill, and this is another wisdom-based skill. You've got your lookout, who's in charge of keeping watch, and as you can imagine, this uses the perception skill. And then finally, you've got your scout. So the scout is in charge of setting up camp and opening new trails. And this uses the brand new explore skill, which is another new wisdom-based skill in Lord of the Rings 5e. There are also two new intelligence-based skills in this book. One's called Old Lore and the other's called Riddle. And in Lord of the Rings 5e, we actually lose 4 other skills that are usually in D&D. So Arcana, History, Religion, and Survival are removed from the Lord of the Rings 5e system. So you've got your guide, your hunter, your lookout, and your scout. And during the journey phase, there's a lot of important stuff that can occur. So the journey starts by the player heroes determining the path they want to take. So if we want to go to the White Tower, we figure out, okay, how are we going to get to the White Tower? And we might decide to go along a road, through open terrain, or through hard terrain, or a combination of those. And the type of path that they take will determine a lot of stuff going forward for them as players and for you as the lore master during the journey phase. So the guide is going to make a pathfinding check. And this is typically done with your new travel skill. But you can sometimes use other skills as appropriate, like cartographer's tools or navigator's tools. And this determines how safe the path forward is. So your guide makes sure that they're taking the most safe path possible, and how much they succeed or fail will determine how treacherous this path is. And we represent this treacherous path by having events occur. So a variety of events will occur over the course of the journey, which will need to be resolved by the player heroes that the event occurs for. So when we say, let's say we've got a 10 hex journey, and we go off and let's say the guide rolls very poorly. They roll a natural one on the travel skill. First hex, you're going to encounter an event. If they roll their next one and it's maybe still a failure but not quite so bad, in 2 more hexes they're going to have another event. Then maybe they succeed, but only by a little bit. You've got an event happening in 3 hexes. And then finally, if you roll and it's a critical success, it's very good, then you're going to have that event happen after 4 hexes. So it doesn't negate the occurrence of events, but it decides how often events occur. So if you are constantly rolling nat ones, you're going to encounter a lot of events along that 10 hex journey. If you roll a lot of critical successes, for example, you might encounter just 2 events during that journey. So you can understand how this can build up over time. When the event occurs, the lore master is going to roll in the background to determine who the event occurs for. So it's either going to occur for it could occur for the scout, the hunter, the lookout, any of them. And the nature of the event typically relates to the role of the player hero that the event occurs for. So a mishap for a hunter may look differently than a mishap for a scout. But in all cases, the consequences of the event affect the individual player hero and can even extend to consequences for the entire company. So when you roll this, you can have good things happen during events, but they are very rare. More often than not, you're going to have bad things happen. So the more events you have, the more risk your party is taking. So a mishap for a hunter, maybe they don't capture any meat during the night, or maybe they end up angering a wolf, and that triggers a combat for the party. But mishap for a scout, maybe they accidentally set up camp in a place that is downhill from a mudslide area, and they end up losing some of the supplies because of it. Or maybe if it happens to the lookout, maybe they get lost. And or sorry, maybe they don't get lost, but maybe they fall asleep while they're watching, and we end up with a surprise attack in the middle of the night. So all this is just stuff that might occur over the journey. At the end of the journey, so after they reach their destination, as the accumulation of traveling long distances sets in, the player heroes are challenged with potential fatigue, and the players must pass a Constitution saving throw in order to resist exhaustion. And different events that occur over the course of the journey can make that save DC higher or lower, depending on what happens. I should say can make it higher. I don't think that there's anything that occurs in the events that makes it lower. They can have stuff happen that adds to their shadow points, stuff that impacts their resources. There's a lot of different stuff that can happen during these events. And then as all of this accumulates, all of them roll that Constitution saving throw to figure out how exhausted they are. And that uses, you can use whatever exhaustion system you want, but this is keeping in mind the 2014 exhaustion rules. So if you want to swap that out with something, feel free. Alrighty. All right. So that's a couple of our things about that system. Let's go into into our rest system. So what exactly is the downtime system in Lord of the Rings 5e? And in Lord of the Rings 5e, we're mainly looking at our fellowship phase as our downtime system. So the time between adventures that player heroes can spend in pursuit of a personal goal or simply resting comfortably to recover their energies is called the fellowship phase. It marks the conclusion of each adventuring phase. This phase is driven by the player's choices, where they get to elaborate upon their player hero's story and ambitions and to mark their adventure's progression. This phase usually covers a longer period of time, so it could be days, weeks, even months, because as we'll get into here, there's essentially two different types of fellowship phases. There are regular fellowship phases, which are usually taken at a safe haven in Lord of the Rings. So maybe your character's hometown, maybe Rivendell, anywhere that they have identified as a secure location with good people that they can rest fully. So if they take a regular rest or a regular fellowship phase, it can be taken anywhere. But they might choose to return to their home for what's called a Yule fellowship phase. So during the end of the year, we go into a Yule fellowship phase, which is essentially a big Christmas break. So it's a time when traveling on the roads is not advised because there's a lot of snow, harsh conditions. It is not ideal to be traveling around Middle Earth in the midst of the middle of winter here. They don't have snow plows. They don't have a marketplace with a greenhouse to provide them food throughout the winter. So traveling through deep snow, traveling in cold conditions over long journeys in the wilderness, with limited access to fresh food, limited access to fresh water, limited access to a warm place in which they can safely rest. All of these are taken into consideration, and as such, most journeying occurs between spring and fall in Middle Earth. And then they travel back home for Yule in the middle of winter here. So with these fellowship phases, these are driven by the player's choices, where they get to elaborate upon their stories and ambitions, and it results in a time of spiritual recovery for them. So the time spent in front of a cozy hearth while enjoying an everyday life confirms to the player heroes that their efforts are not wasted and restores their faith in a brighter future. As such, this is the point in the game where some of the shadow points accumulated by the player heroes may be removed. The amount is based on how noteworthy their accomplishments are deemed to be. So as we go into a regular fellowship phase, those shadow points can melt away from your player heroes. And it might be one shadow point, it might be two shadow points. It really just depends on what they've done to fight against the shadow. If they've been a big thorn in Sauron's side, they might actually lose quite a bit of shadow points. But if they went and they cleared the rats out of the cellar, that might not result in really any shadow points actually being removed from their characters. And it's important to note that shadow scars, which are permanent shadow points, can only be removed during a Yule fellowship phase, so during that longer period of rest. So let's get into undertakings. So what are undertakings? The easiest way to explain an undertaking is it is downtime. These are your downtime activities. There are a number of different undertakings that you can do. And the number of undertakings depends on whether it's a ordinary fellowship phase or a Yule fellowship phase. So during a ordinary fellowship phase, the company as a group chooses one single undertaking. And then during a Yule fellowship phase, each player chooses one undertaking instead. So finally, during each fellowship phase, the company is entitled to choose one additional undertaking, selecting it amongst what are considered free undertakings, and based on the callings and proficiencies of the player heroes. So some examples of this is during an ordinary fellowship phase, the company will choose a maximum of 2 undertakings, and during Yule, they'll have a number of undertakings equal to the number of player heroes plus 1. they always select different undertakings, unless they are marked as Yule activities, which can be chosen by any number of player heroes. So you can choose the following regular undertakings. So you can gather rumors, which might help with you as the lore master deciding what their next story arc is going to be. They can meet with their patron, which gives them specific benefits based off of the patron that they have. Each patron has their own little benefit that they provide to the party. So, for example, I think Bilbo gives them an additional fellowship point when they meet with him. So that's something you can do during a regular undertaking. You can ponder storied and figured maps. You can strengthen your fellowship, study magical items, or write a song. So these are all things you can do as regular undertakings. Again, you have to select different undertakings from these regular undertakings. So two people can't decide to gather rumors. Only one can gather rumors. And then for Yule undertakings, you have healing scars, so healing those shadow scars, raising an heir, which, if I remember correctly, is essentially like leveling up a new player hero for yourself. So basically, if you died, you would then have this player hero that would assume, I think, your titles and your items and that kind of stuff. And then finally, you've got recount a story. So all of those are Yule undertakings and can be done by any number of the player heroes. So that is our two different phases for Lord of the Rings 5e. So we've got our adventuring phase and our fellowship phase. If you guys think that this is cool, by all means, be sure to give it a check. I really like the way that they have this outlined. I think if you like the journey sequence, I've seen a lot of people use it to great success in their D&D 5e campaigns. I think that it just requires a little bit of finagling to make it work properly with a D&D adventure. I actually really like the way that they had the fellowship phase lined out, because in my mind, it makes sense that the players are not out journeying on the road in the middle of winter. It makes sense that they get an opportunity for major downtime, so that they can level up, so that they can pursue other personal goals, so that we can realign ourselves with the story. I think that it would play out very well in a session to have your campaign as you're arcing down from that big adventuring phase, to tie it off with a nice cozy fellowship phase at the end. I think the fellowship phase is a great way to end an adventure. Even if it's just a one-shot or a mini-series. I just imagine the outro of a session being, okay, you've come in after your tiring journey, and your body is heavy and weary, but you look upon the faces of your neighbors and the people you love, and hope sparks once again in your heart, and you get that inspiration to just continue on journeying. You get that inspiration to, okay, it's a hard journeying life, it's a hard adventuring life, but it's worth it to protect the people I love, to protect the smiles and the innocence of the Shire or of Rivendell. I think that there's a lot to be said about having those moments of hope and inspiration to stand in contrast to the death and destruction and turmoil of the rest of a campaign. Alrighty. So that is what we will cover for Lord of the Rings 5e today. So some stuff about D&D this week. So my session actually this coming Friday is canceled, just with the American Thanksgiving this week. We're actually not going to be running that session. But I am anticipating that we will be playing my Sunday morning game this weekend, so long as everything's all well and good with our American counterparts. So I should have some more information on how that's going next Monday during my next conversation stream here. For the stream as a whole, though, we will be running our D&D 5e one-shot, The First Date, this Saturday. So I really hope you guys get an opportunity to tune in live to that. I've ran this mission quite a few times, and it always goes differently depending on the players I have run it. None of the players that I have playing it for you guys live have ever played it before. They don't really have any experience with this NPC that I'm going to be introducing as the main quest giver. And I think that they're going to like it. I think that you guys as viewers are going to like it. I would say it's cheesy, it's corny, but it is action-packed. There's a lot of combat in it. If you guys are looking for a realistic NPC, I will preface, he is not... This is a caricature NPC. He's a little bit larger than life, a little bit exaggerated in some aspects. So if you guys are looking for a more realistic, earthy, conversational story, this may not be for you. But if you guys are looking for just a fun time, some lighthearted laughs, and just some fun Feywild-esque shenanigans, this is going to be a good time. So please check out our stream this coming Saturday. It will be my first time live streaming a live play. I'm hoping everything goes off without a hitch. I'm really curious to find out how it's going to go as a whole. And we're expecting it to run anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. We will be taking a break just after the halfway point so that I can look after my baby, feed him after one of our combats probably. So we'll probably take a 20-minute break mid-session there. But I'm anticipating that it probably won't pass the 4-hour mark. So in other news, for our Westmarch server, so I admin for a D&D 5e Westmarch server called the Forged Concordance. So at the Forged Concordance this week, we have wrapped up some interviews that I've been working on for staff. And we are entering into our next phase of voting on some of those interviews. So I'm hoping that we're going to be orienting some new people here this probably in December here, which should decrease the workload on our existing workforce and maybe even increase the amount of time that I have available to dedicate to the stream. So we're looking forward to that. I wanted to ask you guys what your guys' thoughts are on me bringing in people to talk on the stream with me, whether that's fellow D&D players, fellow DMs. I wanted to kind of see what your guys' thoughts are. Would you guys like that kind of stuff? And if you do, how would you like to see that brought forward? Would you like to see me interviewing somebody about their D&D experience? Would you like to see us just chat and converse about particular topics? I'm really curious to see what your guys' thoughts are on that. So let me know. I would be interested to get some feedback on some more ways to improve the stream. And then another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about is how you feel about getting on and doing like doing some session building together. So I don't know if many people like to session build with people over stream. I know I have done it before where I've jumped into a Twitch stream and had the ideas flow back and forth with the streamer. So is that something you guys are interested in? Please let me know. All right. I do think that I will have to skedaddle here. We do have an awake little baby who is currently pulling at the bars and playing his fingers on the wall. So I really appreciate everyone's support with the likes, the shares, the follows, the subscriptions. I appreciate everyone who has dropped by to talk in the stream today, who's dropped by to talk in the stream this week. I hope to see you guys come out tomorrow, or sorry, not tomorrow, Saturday morning to watch our D&D one shot. It's going to be a good time. I promise you that if you like some cheesy, corny, out there stuff, you will like this. And I've had to modify a little bit of things about this one shot that we're going to be testing out, because usually when I run this one shot, it's in the world based off of the Westmarch server that I play and run on. So I've actually adapted it to the Forgotten Realms, which is my first time adapting it to Forgotten Realms this time around. So we're gonna see how that goes. I hope I don't mess up. But yeah, thank you guys again so much. Be sure to check out all of the great streamers that I gave shouts to this morning. The Death Save Society, Malcolm Hinson 4, and the Kindly Cleric. All three of these are really good D&D streamers, and I really do want to highlight, they are worth your time to follow. They are worth your time to hop on the stream and just chill with, because they're just good folks. So please check them out, and have you guys a great rest of your Thursday morning, or I guess Thursday afternoon. Bye-bye for now, and we'll see you on Saturday.